Yeah, dude, that would be really helpful. Definitely. So, well, you don't have the sound here. I guess I could share the application window for the sound, but we'll do that in a little bit. We won't worry about the sound, but there is some nice sounds added to the UI. Clean up the UI a little bit, but if you haven't seen this yet, it's just a randomizer, and what it does is if you hit spacebar now, you can just kind of randomize all the layers that you programmed into it at a high level, and then you can go ahead and change the layer, randomize the hat layer, classes, or first I got to change his hat. These we can't see him, but weapons. Then we have a couple different modes now. Right now you're seeing it in randomize once mode, and it basically just randomizes all the layers. And then there's a batch mode that will export a batch of these things. So in the scripts, we have some configuration over here, and we'll do like say just for time's sake, we'll do 10 of those, and we'll batch out 10. So we hit batch, and it'll go through and export these guys as images. So there's all the different ones. And then also it exports them as VRMs. The reason why it's starting on number 52, that's a bug. If I started over and did the same thing, it'll start from the beginning. I just have to reset the numbers. But I could go ahead and start it and overwrite these and do another batch, you know. So here comes another batch, and it'll start at the proper number. But it'll overwrite these pictures as well. At the same time, it actually exports JSON data too. So inside here, there's a little folder where it's calculating the JSON output of these things and kicking us out a ERC 721. So that's cool. So we got batches, they export, all layers are good, and got configurators. And down here is just kind of like a tool to look at like the JSON little console. I was thinking about doing some interesting things where you could like track the DNA and load it up. But overall, there's a script here. There's a DNA list, and every time like you generate something, it creates this long ass string of let's call it like random DNA. And I'm still working on the validation and checking what we could do with this stuff, like maybe using all this to load in characters. But that's kind of where I'm at. And then I have a another cool spin tool where you can go like roll and you can just kind of spin it and it goes through 100. You could let me get you the sound. Let me get you the sound. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think I can get you the sound if I share the app, not the screen. Let me see. Boom tools. um I think you should have it now, maybe. I'm gonna try it. Ready? So I'm gonna go over here, pick mode, run a roll, and dank. Can you hear that, or you didn't hear that? um Someone heard it. I said dank. Yeah, yeah. So, but here's the thing: it created a DNA list of 100 different DNAs, right? And it's pretty unusable for right now. But I mean, as far as the DNA list, but you could export stuff. You could export GLBs. We can randomize anything really. The data types don't have to be limited to objects on a body. I want to create the other exporters and see what we can do. But for now, yeah, it's a randomized tool. I wanted to see like what's next with the front end and exploring some options on how to approach sealing these up, because I thought about the ethics behind like having say I did randomize 100. Well, I would know all the rarity traits and everything. So I thought about how baseball cards and stuff and how traditional collectibles do it. They all know the random traits. They know how much they're going to make. So I was thinking about loot crates and sticking these things inside boxes. That way, we could randomize the front end so it's fair. Like if there's 1,000 of them and everybody's going to get a random one of those, it doesn't really matter if everybody knows the metadata. It's just really important that it's a fair distribution. So try and explore some of those ideas and get to that point soon once we do a small run. But as a dev tool, you could see all the traits. You can actually just randomize, one layer in here and then go, you know what, I want to change the weapon, and you could use it like Jin said as a tool to like quickly make variations of your avatar and do things like that. So eventually I'm going to put this on GitHub and share this pretty soon. I'm going to be getting some feedback from MetaDreamer, and we're going to try to get it onto web and React so that we can integrate these into their web tooling. But that's the story of the randomizer. Got any feedback or ideas or anything? Let me know. I'll have it on GitHub soon, so you could, put issues and feedback there too.
I have a question about it. Are you keeping a log of every generated so as not to create duplicates or similars? Like, or have you considered that?
Definitely. So every time it creates a new one, it basically adds to this list of basically DNAs that it's created, and yeah, it goes back and it checks if it's already been created, then just randomize again. So that's kind of what I have so far. But I would like to take a look at that code with my dude Sith here soon, if you got some time, because I want it to work forward and backwards. Because I do like if I create them all and I save them all, well then technically I have all their VRMs, I have their output, I have their JSON data on file. So there's no reason I couldn't like load up those files and then put batches. Like I would like to add a mode where you would be able to be like pick a folder and then name this batch, and then when you go ahead and hit this batch, it'll like do that batch, but then it'll save it like persistent, and you can come back and like load in batches and then scrub through the whole batch in here, but I don't know, you could do that on your computer as well. You could manage your own files, but it's like there's a lot of options. I didn't want to over tool it, but yeah, I'm kind of on the point where I want to see what I can do with these DNA strands. Either I wanted to be able to load them back up like a cheat code, but they're just really long and they're all dependent on the layers. And I have to write some interesting, like, I guess, interpreter, decoder. But it's, or we can turn these into SHA-256 hashes and go with that. That's another way that was suggested. But yeah, I mean, you could do that, or I concatenated them down really short, so they were short codes like HADR, and it made sense. But sometimes there was certain conditions where that was just not enough information. It was too lossy. You'd like lose some information, and so yeah. But that's cool. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Right now, all the actual layers are all wrong and stuff, and was waiting on some assets from some friends, or we can all, like you said, throw an art asset together and really have some fun with it. I want to make a funny one that like spits out really hilarious ones. So we'll get there. We'll have a few. We're gonna do some with the Meta Factory, and then some with Uncanny Alley, and a few things. But I'm also open to do small runs and ideas if we can gather the assets. We have Tubby Cats, we have loot, meta loot, and all of our assets. So gotta bring it all together because right now I think it's ready. I think it's ready for testing. But yeah, let's get together if you guys got some time later to take a look at the. Yeah. So I could go over how to configure the whole thing, but that's for another day. It would be nice if you could just hit add layer, drag your layer in, then put it where you want it, type in the name of the layer, and it kind of gave a user interface where it made it easy to add layers. That's just something that doesn't exist. You actually got to manually go add all layers, make all the scripts, do all the references, duplicate everything, and then add your layer depending on the data type because it randomizes 3D layers and materials, but say you want to randomize sounds, well, you're going to have to make a new instance of the randomizers and then calculate that and write the the strings so that they all come back together and output the JSON. So, or you could just say fuck all that, and you can just use it as a tool to generate like 10 enemies and then fight ten enemies. So heck, it could be used for a lot of things. We don't know yet. Yeah, no problem. Hell yeah. Sounds fun, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'll just show really quick this interface I'm working on. So yeah, we were talking about the digivices earlier. So I got a new update, big reveal, woo! So I've been thinking about like just having a standard interface for something to happen inside of a screen. So you've got your A button, your B button. It looks very familiar because it's just mimicking a Game Boy. But I feel like the Game Boy got it right because you can do a lot with just this. I make music in the Game Boy, and it requires a lot of like combinations that you have to hit, and they're pretty intricate combinations. It's like hold Option, tap B twice to highlight something, and then let go of Option and tap B again to copy. But it's once you figure out those kind of interfaces and like those shortcuts, you're it gets really comfortable. And I actually prefer making music on a Game Boy in that interface because it's just very simple. You only need your two thumbs. Or if you just want to use one hand, you can even use one hand. It works. So yeah, so I've been thinking through like, what if we simplified just this very standard interface to have a wearable? And I've been playing around with the Flipper Zero, which is like a Tamagotchi for hackers. What is it? Somebody that worked on a wallet right now for the Flipper Zero is pretty interesting. But this. So this has a very similar interface, but less buttons, and you can still do a lot because they made a very good keyboard that you can navigate with arrows and a select button. So I'm trying to like take inspiration from that because you can just do a lot with a little. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm working on the colliders and some kind of library so that people can use this. Boop.
That's cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, I've been chatting with Arashi about 3D modeling local devices that we could self-host parts of the metaverse with, just so that we could communicate this idea more easily. Because you know, a lot of foot traffic in the virtual world, but you know, it's like we could previs the future this way too. Do you think there's going to be like an emulator running on this? Have you heard of portable
Yeah,
emulator?
that's where I want to go. Yeah, that's the aim. And there's like I think there's some ways to do that already. Like Anarchy Arcade has some emulations running, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it runs RetroArch. Type out.
Actually, no, it runs libretro,
Oh,
which RetroArch uses, but it's more the core framework. That it's like an application interface where you write a DLL usually, and any what's called a libretro front end that has like a header file that supports these kind of embedded apps can load the DLL and run it, and
Yeah,
it runs
so
on a
okay,
variety of devices too.
so you can do that. So what I'm envisioning for this device that I'm making is I just want it to be a generic device that has a screen that you can target and colliders that you can listen to for like input, button input. And then it's less about like that's how you can make it interoperable and like maybe this thing is your remote to your home automation or something like that, and maybe someone's using it in VR chat, but as long as like the standard of the A button, B button, select and all of that tied to the colliders is the same, then you can do anything in it. You could even put like YouTube videos in it, maybe even like a web browser or something.
Absolutely. Yes, it sounds a lot like these kind of libretro chords. Libretro is highly composable. So their header file and their design and their repo and they're on GitHub and everything, right? Is there's a lot to be learned from it. One thing that's great is you're talking about input. They have the concept of a virtual gamepad, which Anarchy Arcade copied from them. And with this virtual gamepad, it tries to represent all possible non VR inputs and even VR inputs. It tries to map them to like something that looks like an Xbox controller with an extra trigger because it has 3 trigger buttons. And this concept of a virtual gamepad powers every emulator that libretro uses because it's the framework. It's all that the framework knows. And it's so much really good, versatile stuff in the LibRetro design. And it could do exactly like you described, because it's the DLL that you write, its output is a frame buffer, and its input are things either coming from this virtual gamepad or from a virtual keyboard or a virtual pointing device. So it's all about, it's a black box, you know, you just give it input and it gives you output.
I think my moment where I'm going to be very, very happy is when I can get my LSDJ, my music performance save file loading in VR. If, like, once I experience that, it's going to be wild. Everyone can do it.
Green. Hokage, who's in the M3 Discord as well, made an overlay app for it's called Portable Emulator. It's free to download, and you can basically bring this with you to any app in VR, and it's using LibRetro under the hood. And you can mod it. It has like the source code. If you go all the way down, you can check out the GitHub here. And so yeah, like can possibly, you know, you got the option of metachromium and portable emulator to kind of put together some demos. It's gonna be so dank to just like hit up a really cool VR chat world and then like bring some games and like LAN party with other people in this way. It's something I've always wanted to do, especially with like noclip.website and so many cool worlds there. But this is what, you know, helps kind of define the positive sum vision of WebXR, in that it's not WebXR competing with native. WebXR can be the hot sauce that can make even native ecosystems even more dank, because you can overlay stuff. Like this demo with metachromium, you know? So he's got like chromium open on one side over here, and Jared Monkey and Avir here are both running metachromium. I'm, as the observer, I can't see what they're seeing, but this is what they're seeing from the perspective of someone running it. So it doesn't, the overlays don't have kind of knowledge of the underlying app. There can be such, so like, you know, especially if we can get depth information, then we can get quality like AR and on top of VR. But you know, this was what, 2 years ago, so it's kind of been a while.
And the amazing thing is the power of the VR APIs are making that possible, because it gives you the camera position and this relative 3D positions to your chaperone space.
Yeah.
So right. You're looking at a 3D overlay right there. Yeah.
So right over here, you're looking at a 3D overlay, and he's putting in so there is also like a party system, and he's inputting the room code to connect with these other people, and then boom. Now it's basically like AR, like Discord or Skype in a way, where with avatars. It's like AR chat in a way, or WebXR chat.
I call that tuning into somebody's AR layer, because like Anarchy Arcade has the concept of like Anarchy Arcade and AR. This is like virtual AR, which is amazing. But yeah, everybody's going to have, or most people are going to have their own layer that they've customized all their objects in, and you're going to have to choose to tune into your friend's layer to see what he sees. Or you both can like tune into like a public layer to see what's in there. It's going to be a lot of channels that you're tuning in and out of. They'll conflict. You can't have them all at the same time, but you can be in one and experience it. And they're sharing the same location.
True.
It's so cool that, you know, like in terms of decentralization, this is so extreme of a example, because it's not like we're creating another app to compete with everything else. We can distribute it on top of every app in a way.
These are really powerful too, because these could be like helpers. Like say you're on a sales call, right, and you're actually in VR with somebody and you're really doing a sales call, but then you can have someone else like the closer come in and kind of be like and guide you and give you and tell you what to say or whatever, and the other person doesn't see that you have help. So you can have like it's just an interesting way that you have, like, say your AI comes in this form, your AI assistant could definitely show up as this experiment. Yeah, that's kind of what happens here. And it could be used for very private meetings as well. Like, hold on, let's go meet on channel 2 on ARXR7, and you just kind of mute out any other connection. You all go to this private connection to do a business deal.
What's a little sad is everybody's going to have their own layer, so most layers are going to have not a lot of traffic in it. It's going to be
Right.
like having a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel. There's way more channels that have like 0 followers than popular ones.
Too heavy in it, and we're at the hour, is that it's kind of like bringing telecom into a world that doesn't have smartphones yet, so it's like, are we going to be in multiple places at once? Because right now we have this kind of purity where everyone's in the moment, right? No phones, everyone leaves it at the door when they go into VR. But with this type of overlay verse, then it's like you don't know if they're really there or not.
All distracted and everyone's using their virtual phone, because it even looks like the shape of a phone on the left.
I don't know. People bring in VR stuff already, but like the whole multiplayer concept is weird. It's going to be like you're talking to somebody on Bluetooth, but you're like looking at them when you talk to them.
Damn, we need to have modes instead of idle, and it be like busy AFK on other channel. All right.
That'd be good. We're at the end of the hour, so I mean, we can hang around and chat. Boombox, if it's cool.